kind of just jump in.
Okay. I'll mute my mic.
Excellent. Thanks everyone for being here. VGH Gender Surgery Clinic scheduling validation session. Mike Pedamonte, we've met several times now, and Raj Shah is our business analyst who's been great just getting us all together and helping me piece together all the design components. Thanks, Raj. So, territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we have the privilege of working, living, and playing on the unceded traditional and ancestral territories of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. May we recognize this honor and approach our work with honesty, compassion, and understanding. If you're working from somewhere else today, please take a moment to acknowledge those lands. Purpose today to validate scheduling build for the VGH Gender Surgery Clinic and sign off on the design. So essentially, we're going to step through everything that we've come up with over the last couple months. It's built in our build domain. We can make changes after validation if need be, but the goal today is to basically say, yes, this is good to go. And what we'll do is we'll start to move it into the production domain here fairly shortly. So any kind of tweaks and changes need to be fairly rapid after this call today. We're going to look at the scheduling components. So the orders that come over to scheduling, the appointments, how we're handling our communication with those orders in terms of surgery type. We'll have a fine comb look at the appointments, the durations, the schedules as well. And we'll talk about a few other components. We're going to talk about group appointments as well. We'll also look at the automated appointment reminder note and what that's going to look like after we've come up with a few tweaks on our last session. Please stop me at any point today if I'm going too fast. Most of it's going to happen in the appointment book. We're not going to do the full referral triage. What we're going to do is look at it from the perspective of triaging provider already has the referral in hand, they've accepted, and we're going to place that accept order, show what it looks like when it gets over to scheduling, and also have a look at it in PM Office to show you how that encounter is, how a clerk can monitor those encounters and those statuses there in PM Office as well. We'll move appointments over to the wait list. I know that's a big part of your clinic's workflow. We'll look at wait list, and any gaps, please just call them out as we go along today, fairly casual. So next slide is the appointment book. It's just a quick snapshot of your book, VGH Gender Surgery Clinic. We'll look at that in the actual book here in a moment. Here's a high-level overview of referral with triage. So fax comes in to the clinic fax number, and the clerk monitors WQM. And you saw this during the ambulatory validation session, but there's a queue where those faxes basically live. You index those packages and get them over to the triaging provider. The triaging provider will either accept or reject. And the big component that you need to worry about from a clerical side is that you get an order that comes to scheduling and populates that request list there, gender surgery future requests. And so from that list, follow-ups can be booked right away. I mean, anything can be booked right away, but follow-ups are either going to be booked right away. A lot of the intake stuff will be waitlisted. And so we'll talk about those workflows as well. Any questions with this slide? Right. Our scheduling orders. So when we talk about scheduling orders, these are communication from a power chart to scheduling. So an accept referral is an order. So a triaging provider is going to place an accept referral, and it comes over to scheduling as an intake assessment. That intake can either be booked or moved to a wait list. Then they have a follow-up order for providers in the clinic. for actually all of the resources in the clinic. And so instead of them booking directly themselves, they place these orders, and those orders come over to scheduling to a queue to be scheduled with all the details needed for booking. So follow up, VGH gender surgery, and you can see I have, there's going to be a drop down list of appointment types to choose from. And the one with the asterisks is the group. We need to talk about if that is going to eventually need to be an option there as an option on the follow-up. And we're going to look at group today as well. So I set up a group appointment that's going to represent your sessions. It's for demo purposes. I know we're going to need to tweak it, but I wanted to have a look. Colin didn't plan to come at all, did he, Gert? You know,
I'm not sure. I don't think he's
Okay.
gonna be coming in. He's pretty busy today.
Okay, sounds good. And so we can share this recording or some screen prints as well, but you'll get the idea of how groups work after today. Cool.
Michael, I can send the whole recording to him as well once we're done. And as soon as I have the
Yeah.
Zoom link, we'll just like send it over with a quick note for them to especially go in and check the group appointments for sure.
Okay, sounds good. All right, next slide, scheduling demo and data review. I'm going to jump over to the appointment book. So here's our appointment book. There was a screen print before. If I click on that book, you can see you're now getting kind of a live snapshot of what the book's going to look like. Obviously, it could get a bit busier. You have all the providers, 2 RN resources in the middle here, Colin, Haley, and then I created a generic resource for the gender surgery group sessions. So we'll talk about that as well. You can see the 2 columns that are designed here for Dr. Genoway. Appointments for follow-up book a little bit differently than they do for Kavanaugh. This kind of mirrors the current state structure of keeping a double column for that provider. All your actions for scheduling, for check-in, for cancel, for reschedule, all that can happen here in the appointment book. You can take actions on your appointments here. You can also do that in the eyeball inquiry icon up top, which we're going to talk about more later. But your books are a way of getting to your appointments. If you'd rather see it in a list view, you're gonna become familiar with the location inquiries as well.
Mike, there's a question.
Oh, yeah. Go for it, Gert. Or did you type it? Sorry.
Oh, hey, sorry about that. I was having trouble with the cursor. So with Dr. Kavanaugh, is there just one slot?
Yeah.
Okay, can we do 2 slots? Because I know I emailed him like 3 times asking if he would like, 2 slots, but he hasn't gotten back to me yet.
Yeah.
So I would say it would be safe to, make 2 slots for him as well, like we have for Dr. Genoway.
Great. Okay. Make it exactly the same.
Yeah, but also for Dr. Genoway, I know she wanted like 30 minutes, but it still shows like 15 minutes. Like, are we just going to go ahead with 15? Because I would love that, just 15.
That's 10:30 to 11. That's a 30-minute follow-up that's booked there.
Oh, okay. I thought these, how the times they were gonna show us 8 to 8:30 as well, and not 8:15.
Oh, so that what you're seeing here is just my book settings, but the
Oh.
actual appointment bookings are different. So they're all random different times. My book settings right now are looking at it in 15-minute increments.
Got it.
But you can see a follow-up here booked for 30 for Genoway, and for Kavanaugh, we have it booking for 15.
Oh, okay, got it.
And you're saying switch Kavanaugh over to the exact same structure?
Yeah, I would say, wouldn't it be like, to avoid anything like in the
Yeah.
future? I'm pretty sure he's gonna be fine with the 15 minutes, but then he hasn't replied back, so I'm not even sure what he wants.
And in current state, they are synced up in terms of both running double slots like that.
Mhm.
Okay, let's just do it. It's no biggie, and we can always switch it back if there's a problem.
Yeah.
Got it. All right, so going forward and looking at the request list. So request list, we talked about in our slides, orders to scheduling. We talked about the 2 orders that we use. You can see that as orders here. You have follow-up and you have your accept referrals. So your accept referrals are always going to find intake assessment appointment types. And then the follow-up orders used for everything else. You can see all the different appointments that we have requested here. One thing to point out is we did label reason for visit and indicate the surgery type and reason for visit goes hand in hand with what Nicole was showing the other day. But that's the field we're going to planning to utilize for capturing that information. Nice thing about that is it communicates well with the appointment book, communicates with what we see in PowerChart, so that will always kind of be front facing. I know that there's some naming convention that still needs to be developed. Gerp, you mentioned figure out a different name for this one, revision outside of VCH. So like this one here, we'll want to have, similar acronym or naming convention, just something where we have a consistent plan for that field value.
Yeah, I think it's the revisions. The only revision that is kind of iffy is revisions that have been done in Montreal, because the doctors are a bit hesitant to do the Montreal revisions here to treat
Gotcha.
treat the patients here. So, but we do have some patients on our wait list who are from who have gotten the surgeries from Montreal.
Yeah.
And we can't take them off of our wait list because we've already accepted those. So
I see.
it's a bit of a gray area there.
Got it. No worries. Right. Are there any questions with request list? Do you understand the structure of an order coming to scheduling and requesting appointment types, and that from this list, anything can be either moved to wait list or booked directly? So if I wanted to book it directly, and we're going to do a bunch of them, I would complete request. If I wanted to get it over to wait list, I would do move request.
Got it. And these are all in the future request list, right?
Currently right here is future. And if I wanted to jump over to wait, I change this to wait and I click find. And I think we only have a patient or 2 over there right now. Special instructions are also going to be used for time ranges and other information that needs to be communicated from whoever's requesting the appointment and scheduling clerk. You'll also have they'll use scheduling priority to send certain date ranges. Ordering provider is going to be an important field to see who's requesting what. You can see, pre-op assessment is going to end up being able to be booked to 3 different providers, but my ordering provider is going to indicate to me most often who I need to book that to. So it's all of these fields are going to come into play for your booking process. What I want to do next is how does intake get to a request list? You can see there's a couple already here, but I want to have a look at just showing you what that looks like from a triaging provider side, and also the PM office work list. So PM office work list is a list that shows you all of your referral encounters. So ready for triage, accepted. I have a referral status. I wanted to tweak one of booked, but you have your filters here to just show only what you want to show. The reason I used that booked is because I was trying to come up with something that we could use for waitlist patients. So patients that are not booked, but they're not and they're not necessarily shouldn't be just sitting there in an accepted status. That put that patient in booked, or there's more to come on that, but stay tuned. So accepted and ready for triage are the two that you're kind of keeping an eye on, and you're also going to have rejected as well. So rejected encounters need to be discharged. What you're seeing here are encounters. You're not seeing appointment types, but anything that's accepted is going to go hand in hand with what you're seeing on your request list. So intakes that get sent over to scheduling, as soon as an ordering provider sends an intake order, or sorry, sends an accept referral, it comes over as an intake, and this status here gets switched. So the one I want to look at is, so this is let's pretend we put the referral packet.
Sorry, I just wanted to just make clear that because the language we're using for the referral status is actually ready for screening, not ready for triage. But it looks the same way, just wanted to clarify.
Thank you, Nicole. I was actually going to reach out to you about that this morning. I remember hearing that on one of the sessions. And okay, so ready for screening is a status in the encounter that's similar to ready for triage. So we've sent the package over to, we've created our referral encounter. You've seen the facts. You've done all that piece, and we're Q monitor, and triaging provider now has the package. They're analyzing it, and they're ready to accept, let's say, this patient right here. So DM off CST sketch test. Right now you're seeing it as ready for triage. I'm the ordering provider. I'm going to go ahead and place that accept. So here's the accept referral order. I'm in the shoes of triaging provider. I've accepted this patient. I'm going to say, as per special instructions for a scheduling priority, the appointment that gets requested is intake. Reason for a visit. We are going to use one of our labels here. So and special instructions, and that's coming up on my other screen. Give me one sec here. Saying waitlist patient. All my required fields are filled out. Click sign. And so if I jump back to PM Office, this ready for triage, when I refresh, should switch to accepted. And I also will get an order over here in scheduling. So if I click find again as my refresh in scheduling, you can see the patient now has an order for an appointment type of intake, special instructions waitlist. And so that's exactly what I want to show you next is, what does that look like getting this patient over to waitlist? It's a right click, move request. It shows me the queue that the patient's currently on, and I move over waitlist, and I move the other request list off. And you can manage scheduling comments as well. We don't like to use these because they're not very front facing. You'd have to double click to get into these comments. I want to show you the best way to add comments that are more running comments, and that's these scheduling comments that you're seeing up here. So if I say okay and jump over to waitlist, I should see that patient sitting over there. Special instruction waitlist. If the provider had entered more details, those would stick with this waitlist patient. scheduling comments very front facing as a scheduling clerk. If I needed to add anything else, the best way to do that is to right click modify and do that here on the detail screen. It's going to make me fill out required fields, but that will save me having to do these fields at the time of booking. But the scheduling comments is at the very bottom. And so these are your kind of running comments that you say patient, waitlist patient, 1 year, whatever detailing that you keep on your patient charts while the patients chart while they're waitlisting from a clerical perspective should be managed here in scheduling comments. And so those comments stay very front facing, and you'll be very in tune with that column. Any questions with how an intake gets to scheduling or how we get it over to waitlist? Or anything around this?
I think I'm pretty good with with whatever we've gone through for up until now. I just wanted to see if I have the right idea. So first, the providers, they send us a referral. The referrals come into the work queue monitor, and then from there, I will make them ready for triage, and the provider who's going to
ready for screening.
Ready for screening. So Amy will see that it's ready for screening. She'll do whatever she needs to do, and then she'll either accept it or reject it, and then it will show up in my scheduling book and the PM office, or with intake assessment, or with I'm not sure what was the other one, intake assessment, or
it requests an intake assessment, and then in PM office it switches to accepted.
Exactly, yeah. So from the accepted, I can move them to the wait list, or we can book them for, and once they're in the wait list, we can go to the wait list and book them for intake.
Exactly, yeah.
All right.
So let's do one from the wait list. Let's actually get a patient booked. So if I go back to wait list, and we're going to take that patient and actually book them in. Same thing that can happen from your other queue. You could right click complete request. And because we've already filled out those details, I don't have to answer them now. The appointment pretty much just gets over and is ready to be booked. I have this window appearing for one last scan at these are the details that were on the order. So you would have, any details that the provider added here. We're sorry, Amy. And so now the appointment's ready to be booked with Amy. The only person tied to intake assess is our RN, Amy. And so left click and drag anywhere in the book. And books are now read, which means the appointment's ready to be confirmed. And if I say okay here, it should make me tweak my encounter. So I'm going to turn this referral encounter into a pre-outpatient. Pre-outpatient is like our pre-reg. And in pre-reg, fill out any fields that you can and that your clinic requires you to fill out at the time of getting this booked. There'll be more fields that happen at the time the patient's in front of you for check-in. Give me 1 second, I just have to click through a few screens on there's our pre-reg conversation. And so the encounter information, it now switches to a pre-out. Estimated arrival is our today. $1,300. And let's see what else it makes me fill out. That's it for pre-out, pre-reg. And so scheduling comments also appear in that icon where I type test. You can also see that the rev reason for exam there booked with the patient. Any questions there, Gerb?
No, I think I'm good here.
And Gerb, you're going to get training on this. This is very preliminary. This is just, we want you to understand the flows. We want you to see it, sign off on appointment types. Everything looks right, but don't be too concerned with, oh, what did I need to do for that field right there? Because that happens during training.
Sure.
All right, so let's look at the follow-up order. So that patient's booked. They are seen by the patient, or sorry, seen by Amy. And now let's have a quick peek at what follow-up order looks like on the power chart side. So the follow-up order is how Amy will request any other appointment types that are going to happen for this patient. So that series of appointments that we talked about, pre-op assess, and anything else that we want to get booked would be placed through this follow-up clinic order. So I'm going to say in person, you have sketch priority to use the fields, or sorry, if we didn't want to do anything for special instructions, that can be guided using sketch priority. And then the appointment requested is the big one that we're going to have a look at now. So these request the specific appointments that hit the queue. And so if a PT follow-up is requested right now, that appointment can only be booked to the PT resource. We're not going to place this order because we already have a handful on our request queue. And we'll take a look at them there. I just wanted you to get a glimpse of this order. And so this order was to be placed. There's no harm in sending another one. Send an MD consult, or sorry, a pre-op assess. Click sign. So in scheduling.
Sorry, Mike,
now
just to pause you. Gerb had a question if you want to.
Yeah, of course.
So for the MD new consult, does that mean the Zoom 45 minutes then?
The
For
what?
the follow-up where it says MD new consult?
MD new consult.
When you're placing the order, there was
Yeah.
an option saying MD new consult.
Yeah, so we have all of these options on your, so in here I just said new, but it's MD new consult that gets requested.
Got
That's
it. So
the appointment type that books for, I believe, 45 with either of the providers.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Gerb, within that drop down, you have the option to select the type of the appointment, whether it's in person, whether it's Zoom, whether it's something else.
Oh,
So
okay,
you
yeah.
will have that drop down as well.
Got it. Now
Sorry
that
about
makes
that.
sense. Yeah.
Great point. And that's the enterprise-wide design for visit modality, is that we use that field. We don't design specific appointment types for all those. I'll pull it up. It's a great point. And this communicates over to scheduling and into our accept format, so it stays with the life of that appointment. And it's even a required field. So you have your Zoom for healthcare, in person, etc., phone. Appointment requested. That last one, I think we sent over the pre-op assess, and there it is on our queue, ready to be booked. Visit modality, the field that was mentioned is here. And I don't have it in my first few columns, but you likely will, is the priority. So within 48 hours, or there's even one that says refer to special instructions. So all that communication, whatever works best for you, Gerb, you'll be able to change these columns by changing your preferences and moving things up and down accordingly. So let's go ahead and book each of these. Raj placed one of each for our every single one of our follow-up appointment types. I just want you to, because we have the time today, I want you to see each one of these, see how they book, and raise any flags, Group, if something doesn't look right. So let's start with pre-op assess. Again, you're going to see who placed this order, which will kind of guide you as to where we're booking this particular pre-op assess. Right click complete request. And so pre-op assess is going to book, and I'm going to go out a week so we have clear schedules. You're going to be able to book that to Colin, Amy, or Haley. And I believe it's 60 for each of them. 60, 60, and 60. There were some tweaks based on some emails in our last session. And I'm going to keep going unless I'm not going to confirm all of these and go through the process of each, doing the pre-reg and all that. I just want to step through each appointment type. So please stop me if something doesn't look right. It's a pre-op assess. You'll note when I right click and do a remove up there, it just puts it back to this queue. So MD follow-up, what does that look like? Our two MDs, I believe it was 15 here, which we're going to change to Mirror Genoway, and 30 over here. Nurse follow-up. It's just Amy under this particular appointment type, and it's a 15-minute appointment. Did the pre-op assess, PT follow-up. Just Haley. 30 minutes. Social work follow-up. Colin. 30 minutes. Wound care follow-up. You'll notice both nurses are available for wound care follow-up. We'll book this into Melanie, 15, and Amy will be the same, I believe. All of these durations can be tweaked based on needs as well. So to do that, rather than drag and drop or you suggest, if I knew that this particular wound care was going to take more time, which I know you have some of those, you change the duration like that. Another thing I want to point out from a request list is you commonly book the dual modality appointment types. So what that means, this particular PT, there's a special instruction to also book wound care follow-up. To do that, I'm going to go ahead and start the process of booking this PT. And click next. Next gets me back to the to the appointment tab with the same patient and allows me to kind of get another appointment going. So if I just move that over, I now have 2 appointments I can suggest these together if I wanted the system to kind of find me time where I could get in with both the PT and the wound care provider. And so let me show you what suggest looks like. So if I click suggest, our suggest window is your first available functionality. So as your schedules start to fill up and you want to have the system go look for this appointment for you, you can see that it, let's see, PT follow-up. It's shown me just individual. There's a preference here that let's schedule as a visit within, oh, I didn't have them both selected. So schedule as a visit within 1 day. Which one do I want first? You could say you wanted the PT first or wound care first. Let's leave it as is. So there's suggest finding time for me for both appointments. If you needed to tweak the durations, that would be slightly manual, but you can use suggest to kind of find these times for you. And then, you know, say it finds April 28th for us. And I say, okay, I could confirm those, but if I needed to actually change durations, I could then go to the 28th and mess with durations using that schedule button. So say I only wanted one of them to, you know, the duration's less because it's a combo, you can tweak it accordingly.
But according to the, like, you know, the automatic setup, would it be just 45 minutes for both of them combined, or just one provider?
The system is, I'll show you what confirm looks like. So the system is taking the duration of each appointment. So it's taking the default for PT follow-up and adding it to the default for wound care follow-up. And that's just how it's going to be. So I'll show you confirm. And so you can see the resource view, patient and PT from 10:30 to 11. Patient and Melanie from, what is that, 10 to 10. Let's go to the summary. 10:15 for 15 minutes, and then 10:30 for 30 minutes. And so if that needs to be shorter, you'll have to tweak that manually. Questions with that combination?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Just looking at my notes here. So we booked each of those follow-ups. We'll check those in the slides as well, just sign off on the durations and the actual schedules. Let's look at check-in. So check-in is a little different than everything we've done so far. Check-in is another clerical task that happens day of the appointment. Patients present. What happens then? So this is actually a no-showed appointment. You can check in from your appointment book. So if you're monitoring your appointment book, you can check in as the patients show up. We also have inquiry. So inquiry is great for list view. If I want to see everything for my entire location, and it's going to default once you select your location once, but give me just a moment. If I want to see everything for today, I can use location with person name or check-in by location. So check-in by location is our common inquiry for check-in. Here's everything that's coming today, and what it does is it sorts it by appointment time. So this is a great list rather than looking here in the book and trying to find your patient as things start to get busy. And so I'm just checking. Let's go with And there's some of these were booked with a certain encounter type. I want to make sure that I have a pre-out. There we go. So I have a patient booked for 8 a.m. Let's right click and check this patient in. Right click, actions, check in. Patient's here. I have a pre-out, and this encounter is going to be flipped to a full outpatient encounter. The system shouldn't force me to do that. Register outpatient. And so now the system's going to require us to fill out some more fields on the encounter information. This is an outpatient encounter, source of ID. Just going to say PC care card. Anytime I want it to take me to the next required field, you can click complete. Accident related. And so here's your document selection window. Once you're done with your full registration, you could have different items generated here for printing. And so it defaults to none. It's not allowed. Yeah.
So the what was I gonna say? Give me 1 second. There was one field where it said referring provider. How
should have been done by now.
Okay,
yeah, sorry. That one should be filled in starting with the referral package. So or actually no, this is an outpatient. Does that connect? Is anyone from Reg on that field should connect, or is this a different referring provider now that we're here for the outpatient visits? I'm not sure if
I think we have Florinda on the call, yeah.
Sorry?
There is a Florinda from registration team on our call.
Yeah, I'm just questioning whether, because with the intake and that whole referral package, we have our referring provider and that comes from an external source. For these follow-ups, and I'm going to follow up with this if we can't answer it now, but for our follow-ups, we may be putting our referring provider for the provider that actually ordered the follow-up. Not the original referring provider.
So the original would be in the patient's, like, the general information, and then we book the appointments. It would be whoever ordered it.
Yeah.
Got it.
I'll follow up with that answer for you though. Please don't quote me on it, but it's either the provider who just ordered this follow-up appointment, or it's our original referring provider.
Got it.
And so that appointment should be checked in. And so with this particular inquiry, they fall off because this is only showing us items of patients that need to be checked in for the day. I look back at the book. There it is, changes colors. And then there's also inquiry here with everything. So location with person name is going to show me everything. So like you could see the no showed there, the checked in. That other one is only showing us these confirmed because it kind of wants us to just keep track of the patients that are still yet to come. All of these inquiries are available for you. You'll get used to using whatever one works best for your workflows. And remember, inquiry is just inquiring on the system. Go look at the system and show me who's booked to my entire location, or go look at the system and show me who's booked to just Amy for today, or just Amy for all of the next 3 months. These inquiries are super helpful for that kind of search. You have a person tab as well. Patient presents themselves. I don't know why I'm here. I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to be coming to your clinic. Boom, I can type the patient's details in and it'll go find that patient. It'll go find the details of where that patient's booked. So maybe they have an appointment with gender surgery, but they also have an appointment somewhere else in the hospital. That's going to show here on this list. You can take actions from all of them as well. So what does this look like from the provider side? Let's have a look at Organizer over in PowerChart. This is our view. So what each of the providers are going to be able to see on their side. So it's not the same as the appointment book, but it's very similar. They can pull up our resource group and see everything, just like you'd be looking at the appointment book, or they can dial into just one resource. So if I'm Amy Lowe, I'll have my default set here. And there's my daily schedule for today. Again, you're seeing that field for reason for exam transferring over here as well. Patient surgery type. And then this is calendar view. This is day view. Day view is a snapshot of, I'm not sure why that went to 0 there, of the entire clinic. What does that look like from a list view? Checked in, no show, confirmed. I won't get too into the details. This isn't really my specialty, but I wanted to show you what they're seeing on that side.
So the no-show automatically comes up if we haven't checked in the patient and the time has already passed?
No, no-show is a manual process. Okay. So no-show is a right-click action no-show.
Got it.
And so handling what you do with those no-shows is going to be your clinic's choice. They're not auto-generating reschedule requests, but you can from the scheduling appointment book, once no-showed, you can take actions on those no-shows to request a reschedule. Where is that? Request, action, request, reschedule. And what that'll do is go out to a queue to be managed called reschedule requests. So based on what you're doing from your clinic's workflow perspective, if you're wanting to manage all your no-shows and attempt to reschedule them, those are going to need to be manually moved to reschedule requests.
And also, would they show in future requests as well?
No-shows don't show up in the future. No, the future, they would just, you just put them here onto your reschedule requests. And so I'll show you with that. So you could have them slip over to the future queue if you wanted to, but our default enterprise design is that they hit their own queue because these are appointments that were no-showed already, and you're requesting that they live somewhere so that you can take action on it in the future.
Got it.
So you say reschedules, and so I'll jump over to show you what that looks like. So rather than future, not wait list, but reschedule requests, I have a separate list where these live. There is some work being done. It's called an EDD on our side for CST, where some changes are potentially coming for this process, where it may automatically generate a reschedule request when you no-show, but that's still in process right now. There's some rehaul happening on that whole workflow and that process. For right now, based on these appointment types that you're using, the reschedule request needs to be manually done. So if you're wanting those to go somewhere, it's coming into your inquiry at the end of the day, however you want to do it. And looking at your location with person name, having a look at your no-shows, you can sort by appointment status. And then you can do this in a cluster as well. So say there was 10 no-shows here, you you control or shift all of those appointments and you request a reschedule. So you can do that in bulk. Any questions with ambulatory organizer?
No,
and
I
how
think
it
I'm good.
correlates? Okay,
So the ambulatory organizer is for the nurses, right?
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And provide MDs as well. The whole team will actually be in ambulatory organizer and power chart.
So power chart would have all these apps like PM Office, ambulatory organizer, and Chatbook.
They can launch the appointment book, and I know, let me see. I don't know if that actually, so their scheduling of appointment book, if they had view only access in scheduling, you could launch to the appointment book. I don't know that you can launch to PM Office to that work list, but you do have the conversations here. So they do manage that kind of referral encounters here in PM in this application. Sorry, power chart.
They can see the same stuff as the work list though on the referral management, because they can also look at the accepted ones as well. If they want to see that, they can change what the input is.
Yeah, in my particular power chart sign on under Michael Petamonte doesn't have anything set up for referral management, but your triaging provider would have a list here of all the referrals.
Yeah, so if you click down on the referral status column there, they can actually select what they want to look at. So they can look at the accepted ones if they want to keep track of everybody, or they can just look at the ones that they need to do. So it's like somewhat similar to the PM Office one, because yeah, they don't really use PM Office themselves.
So the PM Office is the one where we would get the referrals and where we would have the work queue monitor. And scheduling appointment would be primarily for scheduling or rescheduling or waitlisting the appointments. Is that just is that the main difference between PM Office and scheduling book?
PM Office, yeah. So PM Office is just when we're looking at this particular work list, is a way of managing your referrals. So you do nothing with your actual scheduling here. It's just your referrals. And so you can also do your encounter stuff here as well. So if a referral, if it's something needed to be tweaked on the actual referral, you right click on it in referral management. Say you were changing the priority or something in the patient details, the registration and referral management happens here. Can also happen over in scheduling, but this is a nice view of everything coming through referral triage.
Got it. So right now, whenever we get the referral, we register them in the system, like in the PCS system. But when we get the Cerner, when the referrals come in, they would already have an account in the Cerner. We would just need to attach that referral like an encounter, right?
So will the patients be there, is what you're saying?
Yes, so the patients should already be in the system. We'll just search them and attach the referral to the patient then?
If it's a patient, and I may have to lean on somebody else here, if they're patients that we're cutting over, so like that they're in your current system and they're coming over to your future Cerner system, the patient load should happen where that they all come over to Cerner. Now the actual registration, so starting the referral package, is manual and happens fresh with every package. So there's no encounter yet, but the patient should be there. with our patient load.
Mhm.
There are going to be patients where you have to add brand new, but I'm assuming that anybody that's coming over that, you know, you already have in your current state system should come over with our patient load.
Got it.
Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but new patients will be registered in by the registration team, right? By Florinda's, the RSDQ team at the clinic. So Gurp, I think your question is like the registration team will be responsible to put in all the patient demographics. If you see in the chat box, Florinda has even said that as well. She's from the registration team. Does that kind of give you a perspective of your question or not yet?
So basically, there will be a team working aside from myself who would be basically putting like all the patients, like be working on putting all the patients, doesn't matter which clinic it is, to
Correct.
put them in the
Correct.
registration. Like,
Yes, the registration team is responsible for putting in the insurances, whether they're from the province, from another country, so on and so forth. Like all of their demographic details will go in there. Yes, there is a
Okay.
separate team that works on it.
got it. And let's say if we get like a brand new patient who's not been entered into Cerner, then we would be making them the Cerner patient then?
Good question.
Exactly.
Florinda,
Add person.
do you
Yeah.
have an input in that one?
Yeah, so for adding new patients or updating patient demographics, you will be using PM Office. So it's not
Got
just, just to monitor the workload. So this application is also used to make updates to the encounters and providers, updates to patient demographics, or add patients as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Nicole, just a follow-up question on that one. Will the clerks be trained to add new patients into the system when their training takes place?
Yes.
To
Yeah.
use. Okay.
It is. Yeah, it includes this.
Thank you.
Great questions. Thanks, everyone. Jumping back to scheduling. Next thing I want to talk about is group therapy. So Colin did send me a list of potential group sessions that could be upcoming. So I designed a resource here in scheduling to accommodate all of those different sessions. Group appointments are a little different. Everything you see over here is one patient booked to one resource. This group session resource, you can see the four dots in the top left. That's a group session. So if I click on that, it's showing me the details of that session. And so there's only one patient booked. I have a max capacity of 50. And our sessions are, the descriptions are labeled based on basically that list that was sent to me. So you're going to, whoever's has access to the appointment book in your clinic is in charge of setting up these group sessions. And we'll look at that next. These are sessions that have already been set up. And so these are just sessions where we would be booking patients to. This one is surgical journey webinar, phalloplasty. And you see that I labeled this one a bit different. This is our Volvo Meta surgical journey webinar. Each session can be customized to have different max capacities. How I designed it was under a generic resource based on that email. It sounds like this could have gone either way, that these sessions actually could have been housed under your actual providers, but this does give you some flexibility to kind of just manage everything under one resource. I was kind of, again, hoping Colin would be here, but hopefully he sees how this looks, and we're going to talk about the design. So just like we booked appointments before, you would start the booking process and get them over to that group session. I'm going to show you what that looks like directly from the appointment book. So VSC group.
I was just looking at the text from Colin. He said that he'll be here, but I'm not sure when. Maybe at the later part of the meeting.
Okay. Wonder if we should wait on this then. Is this relevant to you at all, Gert? I mean, would you be the one booking these group sessions, patients into the group sessions?
No,
I'm assuming
like right
so.
now, I haven't been doing anything for group sessions or for Colin or Haley. Colin and Haley, we're just putting them on hold because we have a lot of backlog in the clinic and
Yeah.
a lot of organization left to do. So they're just doing their own thing for now. They're just asking, Haley's asking the UBC clerk to schedule the patients for her, or she does it on her own. With Colin, I book like 50% of his appointments, whatever appointments are. And the other ones, he just cold calls them. And then he gives us the encounters. But for the group sessions, he does everything on his own. But that's where the allied health clerk comes in. We've got one clerk, and she will be managing Haley's referrals and both of their bookings, Haley and Colin's bookings. So I think she'll be the one who'll be doing all of the group session, organization and stuff.
Got it.
So I would say, like when we do the training, it would be good to kind of have her as well.
Definitely. Yeah, group sessions are a little different. Let's save this to see if Colin jumps on so that he can have a look at it. If not, if he doesn't jump on, we'll do it last anyway. We'll book a patient to the group. We'll set up a session as well. It's pretty straightforward. There's a little bit more maintenance that happens here in the book because it allows the clinic to have control of the group sessions. So rather than, just to help you understand how that works, rather than you having to log a ticket to CST like you would for changing Melanie's schedule, her permanent schedule, it needs to start at 7 a.m. That's a ticket to CST. But these group sessions can be managed within the appointment book. And so they give you a layer of kind of control within the clinic so that you're essentially controlling those sessions without having to go through CST. So it's an added maintenance step, but it's a good piece to have and good knowledge to have if you're going to be actually getting those booked in your clinic. Next one I want to look at is back to the slides. So we'll come back to this setting up, scheduling and setting up group sessions. Let me put this down towards the bottom so we don't forget.
I just got another text from Colin. He thought that I was talking about the GSP meeting, but I meant CST meeting, so I'm not sure if he's going to be coming in.
Okay.
Good. If possible, if you can text him to join, like just for a bit, if he can.
Yeah, I will.
Possible. Thank you so much.
One change for sure. Gert, can you see this slide okay? And I can also email it to you, but we're essentially just signing off on the current state schedules.
So Dr. Janave, she has
I already noted that we're going to change Kavanaugh to look like Genoway. I guess the question with that is, are there still two admins, or do you want the admin structure to stay as you have it?
So yeah, the admin structure should still be the same. It doesn't matter if he's booking two patients, in that 15-minute slot, but the admin time should still be the same because he does all the transcribing in that time.
Yeah.
So I think we can, still keep that. But for Dr. Genevieve, why do I see 15 minutes there?
Oh yeah, that's irrelevant to you as a user. So that's it functions in the background. That's our start time interval that's functioning in the background to kind of guide that appointments don't get booked every 5 minutes. You can always force book to those 5-minute times, but the 15 is just a guide in the background. Yeah.
I'm just
I
gonna
don't want you
send
to
the link to Colin. He'll be joining us soon.
Okay, great. And the other thing here, Colin is just Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Same with Melanie's schedule. And then the group is our generic resource that functions. This is our template for the group, but you also need to add the session. So group is just wide open. You wouldn't be able to book to that 8 to 1600 without somebody having already set up the group, that next additional layer there.
I'm not sure what you mean by that
Yeah,
here.
it'll make more sense once we do the group component.
Mm-hmm.
It basically, if you're using a generic resource to control the group sessions, then you need to have a template for that resource. And so that template usually is just wide open time, because we then go back to the book and add the other layers. So you can see the yellow behind the scenes, but nothing's going to book to the yellow. With the group resource, the only appointments are going to book to the teal session there. So again, GURP, I'll email you this anyway, just to get your eyes on it that way. And then appointments. Here's our appointments. We have intake. And we already booked all of these. I just want to note that we're changing.
Is it possible to CC the entire team on these on that email, so that they can have a look at the and as a final decision too? I'm pretty sure it's okay, but sometimes they'll just see and point out something which I might not notice.
Yeah, I'll send it to the emails that I have. I'm only slightly, or that might be Colin, slightly apprehensive to send it out to a full team where we're gonna get a bunch of kind of, hey, what's this? What does this mean? And we're all of a sudden we're starting to rehaul the system.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. In that case, you can just send it to me, and then I will double check with the team, and that way they can tell it to me, and then I can tell it to you.
Yeah, that would put a nice layer on it. So you've already got a good grasp on what we've shown you over the last few months, rather than all new eyes coming directly to me as I'm starting to move this stuff into prod.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So MD follow-up, we're going to change Avenal to 30. Colin, just wanted to confirm that you're on the call and you can see the screen okay?
I can, yes.
Excellent.
Also, yeah, I'm sorry I'm maybe late here. I don't know. I didn't know I was supposed to be.
Oh, it's no worries.
This one today.
It's good to have you. We just want to have a quick look at group sessions. I appreciate your email this week and your correspondence on that.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
The way it was designed, so you may not have a huge understanding of what we're looking at here, but basically with running appointment book, all regular appointments, so solo appointments, we're going to book directly to you. And I set up the group session as an independent resource where it's not actually taking time up on your schedule. The nice thing about setting it up this way is, again, you don't need to know who's covering that session before we start to book patients to it. If that doesn't make sense, if everything should just be set up under your name, or if you want to have it designed a different way, you want it to actually show up on the provider's schedule, we get rid of this generic resource and the sessions get set up here under each one of the providers. But again, that's committing to who's covering the session before we kind of have the patients for that session. That makes sense.
I mean, I love having that independent. Yeah, I think that's probably the best way forward. And then just a couple of questions after that. So at what point, like, could we theoretically at the same time also block off the same chunk in individual clinicians' calendars?
Yeah, and so that can be done with block
It'll just-
appointment type.
It'll just be a little redundant if anything, hey, but the whole team can see.
Yeah. So group, we use block appointments to do any kind of blocking. But if you go schedule, I wanted to block Colin for the same time, which is 1300. Say, okay, time is invalid. I didn't have the slot selected. Oop, that was 4 hours, but you get the idea. So you can block in unison with those.
Okay,
with
that's
those
easy enough.
groups. It is,
Okay.
yeah.
And then could we theoretically have 2 groups at the same time?
Yeah, yeah, you could
Okay.
set up another session to where group sessions can be added and created. And so what I was telling Bert before, but taking a step back, what group sessions allow a clinic to do is own those sessions right there in the clinic with our schedules. Like, so looking, say, looking at Melanie's schedule here, if Melanie needed to change to 7 o'clock start, that would be a ticket to CST. And so the 7, I mean, you can still force book outside of the slot. I don't want to scare you with that, but if a permanent schedule change needed to happen, it's a ticket to CST. Group session maintenance is done in-house. So Gert mentioned an allied clerical resource that may have their hands on this. That can be done right here in the appointment book. And so group sessions are right-click actions, group session, create. You own that piece in your clinic. So you tell the system, all right, I need a group session that recurs once a month. I want to call it this. I want max 50 patients. And we're going to look at how it's set up in just a moment. But that's all done in-house. So it's kind of a nice thing. Yeah, it's nice to have.
Yeah, a lot of flexibility there. It sounds like, hey, for how to schedule that. That's perfect.
Definitely.
And my
so,
next question is maybe, oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, please, yeah.
This might be one you're going to answer in a second, but just the curiosity about how that interface interacts with Zoom and scheduling and emailing and all that stuff. Now we're doing it manually in Zoom entirely with like a bit of Outlook, but yeah, I suppose that's probably a question for another time.
Yeah, so the how it actually physically happens, Zoom or however the session's set up, I'm not super in tune to where that goes. You know, this session, you're going to design it as either an in-person or a Zoom using your labeling. So right now you can see the description I put on this was just phalloplasty surgical journey webinar. You can label this however you want. So if you want to label all your Zooms to start with that, you know, Zoom dash phalloplasty, the scheduling book is now going to at least have that kind of front facing. So you'll see which sessions are Zoom and which sessions are in person, or however that's done. Now, what controls, you know, the downstream chain reaction of like Zoom actually launching up and the patient getting to Zoom, that's kind of outside of my realm.
And I imagine, I mean, right now we're just using all of the registration features that Zoom has to offer. So we like get patient registered on Zoom, and then they have automatic emails they get from Zoom at certain time points before and after the presentation. And then we just kind of export that list, and then retroactively we'll likely enter it into our current EMR system. So maybe something similar. I just wasn't sure if Cerner would like, you know, take over the registration piece or whatever. And then it's up to us just to like incorporate the Zoom feature. I don't know how that would work. But it sounds like that's, yeah, for later.
Does anyone else on the call have insight on that? Registration, anything that happens in registration that coordinates with Zoom? I'm not quite sure. I'm sure during training this will come up as well.
I don't think they're integrated, Michael. I think that the Zoom is done separately and they can mention the link in the comments, but it's not integrated with Cerner.
So we could retroactively indicate which patients attended the groups in Cerner, likely.
Oh yeah, yeah. So you manage your check-in process either before or after for your group sessions in Cerner.
Okay, that's great. And I've seen Singh just have his hand up. Sorry, Singh.
So I have a bunch of questions regarding the group sessions. So First of all, is that we are not gonna have the, this template under, the group session is gonna be built under this like independent template. That's gonna be a final decision then, Colin?
This is a demo, so this is up to you completely. Now that Colin's seen it, it'd be nice to kind of sign off on it, but yeah, totally up to you.
I mean, happy to certainly talk about it. In my mind, it seems to make the most sense as far as flexibility with, facilitators. And then if we need to change people last minute, and I don't know, it's maybe overkill, but.
Really quick, that brings up a great point. One session that we set up for cardiac rehab, sorry to redirect, but it allows VGH, healthy heart. It allows you to do both. So I have a generic resource for rehab special program. And if I go to right click actions, group session, create here, I can. So special program has a generic resource, and it also allows you to tie it into a provider optionally. So I can have it under a generic and then say down the road, if you want them to just automatically start appearing on provider schedule, you check up the provider and their Colin is in the list. It now shows up on both that generic and Colin's schedule. So I can set up group to work like this for future use as well.
Yeah, I think that would be a better idea, because let's say if Dr. Genevieve is in that group session, and if I miss it from that generic one, I would still have it in her template to kind of, to basically check me when I try to book the patient for that spot.
Right.
And can you do multiple care providers in that dropdown, Michael?
I can add this same list multiple times if that's something you'd like to do. If you wanted to show up on 2 providers or 3 providers, you tell me the max and I'll get it built that way.
Oh, thanks. I think the max, our whole team beyond Sting is 6. I don't imagine there'll be anything that all 6 of us are at, but
okay.
I imagine the average will probably be 2 or 3. As the way that we're doing them now anyways. Yeah.
So you'd like to see it as a 6 drop down here and just have it managed that way.
If it's easy and it doesn't hurt anyone to do it, then I think that'd be good to be safe.
It saves you if you say these groups become something where you always start to know which provider is covering. You're going to have that session ready to go to just start appearing on those providers' schedule rather than using block, which is kind of nice. You don't have to do that additional step of block.
Yeah, that's great. And seeing that stems your worry for that as well, you think, for practicality?
Yeah, I think to have multiple providers there is good in the sense that when the clerk tries to book them, that they should have, although I think if they're already booked for the group session for that time, when someone tries to book them, it should give them a prompt message, does it, Michael?
If a patient's already booked, yeah, oh yeah.
No, if a provider is booked for a Zoom, let's say 1 to 2, the provider is booked for the group session. And if I try to book that provider for an appointment with for one patient, then it would give a warning message.
You'd have to force book that because it's showing that provider's already taken during that time.
So I think that's good. Even if it does, it would still be kind of nice to have that.
Yeah.
And then Jamie would be the one to manage the organization of the group sessions then, Colin.
The actual creating of the sessions, booking patients to the sessions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that also something that if push came to shove, one of the other providers could do in addition to booking clerks?
You have to have access to the appointment book. So from what I'm understanding is only from in gender surgery, we're only giving access to clerical resources. So it may take somebody sitting with the clerk to step through that.
Okay, okay.
And I think I had brought it up like earlier to see if Amy or Colin, they have the access. I don't know why it wasn't given to the providers, like the access to the scheduling book. If there's like, let's say if the provider wanted to, you know, make the changes on their own, which happens a lot of the times here in our clinic, because we don't have like clerk for Colin or Haley yet, and the new clerk, it's gonna take a while for her to kind of, you know, learn all the CST stuff, considering that she's you know, just like learning PCIS properly still. So that's why I was like hoping if Colin or Haley or Amy should have the access to the scheduling book. Like if they don't, it's not a big deal, but it would be kind of nice to have it.
Hi, I can speak to this. Sorry, I was just about to hop to another meeting, but we did bring this up to leadership group, and so really it's the decision of David and stuff because it has to do with training. And so right now, because they did hire the additional clerk, they did not want to give any reg sketch access to any of the other members of your clinic. So everyone will be able to view within the scheduling book, but they won't be able to schedule or do any registration.
Okay, yeah.
So that has to come through the management. So if for
Okay.
whatever reason, you know, you guys are passionate about that, because it has quite a bit of additional training. It has an in-class portion and that sort of thing. So we did bring it up as what was requested originally. I think in the it was the requirements gathering that we did talk about it originally, and we did bring it up to like Pinky and David, and because of the additional clerk, they wanted to keep it entirely separate. So yeah, that's just where that is at.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just not sure. Yeah.
We'll go ahead, Singh, sorry.
I was just not sure about the reason. I know that you guys had declined it, but I wasn't sure about the reason why it was declined. But yeah, I think then it would be like, you know, essential to have that additional clerk to have the training as well. And, you know, because I won't be doing Colin or Haley's, you know, scheduling stuff. So she would be doing, so we would need to bring her to speak regarding this as well.
And then also maybe, I mean, Nicole, I don't know how in-depth that training is, like how many more hours that is. I mean, likely it's them just trying to like establish boundaries, but.
It includes a couple of modules, and then there's a full day in-class training portion.
Oh, geez. Okay. Okay. Because a part of me is like,
it's pretty extensive. They kind of teach you.
I've had, to further Singh's point, like justification for it, but maybe this is a conversation for me to have with my management team. But we just have so much quick turnover that
it comes up in all of our sessions, or not all of them, but many of them, and it's very much needs to be an internal discussion with your management.
Okay, I'll add that to our little agenda to talk with them about, because like, while it's a pain in the ass, I think it'll ultimately be something that keeps the clinic going, especially with such turnover we've had in the clerk positions. You know, show's got to go on, even though there's, you know, gaps between having people, or, you know, training is delayed, as Singh's talking about for new clerks, that sort of thing. So maybe that's a good argument that I can bring to my management team. And sorry, just to clarify, this is the schedule, like what we're asking for here is potentially provider access for the scheduling appointment book.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Like to make changes in the schedule, like, you know, then you'll be able to do the bookings, like if you were to ever do it.
Yeah, because we have been doing that to a degree. Yeah, it'd be nice to have the flexibility.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of, you know, hopefully we'll be able to get Jamie up to speed by then, and, you know, she can take over. But if she's not, then I'm not doing it and you don't have the access, then it's gonna be like another problem for the clinic.
Okay.
The other question that I have, Michael, for you is regarding the Zooms. So once they book the group session, to send the Zooms to the patient. That's like how I think Florinda, she said that it's like a totally separate process. So we'll be just logging into Zoom and sending patients the email, like from our GSP email, and not, and those won't be sent like automatically, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And for any, like, let's say if there's a telehealth clinic, like a Zoom clinic, for that one as well, we'll be sending them separately.
For regular appointment types, it's the same. Yeah, it's the same process. Yep.
I have some more questions, but those are like I can bring those up at the end of the meeting.
Let's do it. We'll get a whole list of everything that we need to follow up on. The other thing I want to ask really quick about group, are these patients that have had their intake assessment, or are these patients that are like even way before all that happens?
To add a bit more context is, for sure, there's a huge cohort of patients that have an accepted referral but have yet to have the intake stuff.
Got it.
They're waiting for like a year and a half, and that's one of our
Got
largest
it.
groups we want to provide something for. So the groups fits the bill there. And then eventually, I think we even want to offer to like community and or like not actually our patients, like providers and referring providers and stuff. But that's, yeah, I don't know how relevant that is for CST. But.
Got it. So just thinking about it from an order side. So I was showing group the follow-up order before and how cardiac rehab manages and other clinics manage it. They do everything through the follow-up order. Let me pull up the page. Yes. And follow-up order is a way of sending requests for appointments over to scheduling. So rather than you booking your own appointments, Colin, you'll be placing an order called follow-up. And all the appointments are listed there. This is taking just a moment on my other screen, apologies. So you'll be using an appointment type called social work follow-up to get your patients booked in. What I'm needing to know is for group, we often see group as an option here as well. So you're able to request group for patients unless for some reason, for some other workflow, the groups are being booked off of a slate or something external source. Do we need, I mean, just looking at this, do we need group as an option in our appointment requested dropdown to be able to send those electronically for somebody to book from the queue? I'm assuming yes.
So just to make sure I understand, it would be like if I meet with someone and I think they'd be a good group candidate and they're agreed for that, then I would put the order in for one of our clerks to phone them and group them in, like book them in for the group through this function.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I mean, I think that would be needed. Yeah.
All right, great.
And
so any detail?
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. Details on the actual group that you'd be requesting. So we would ideally just have the one group option here, and we're going to get more into this in just a second regarding the design of the sessions. If we had one option here, then you in your special instructions type in which session that you'd actually want to direct them to.
That's perfect.
The part where this gets a little tricky when we're looking at the infrastructure of Cerner is groups. We commit to a duration at the time that we set up our sessions. So if we need multiple durations, you mentioned an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours for various sessions. I think most of them are an hour, you said, or most of them 1 hour. That matching up of session to duration would need to happen here. So what I'm saying is if you had sessions where you really needed it to reflect in the appointment book as right now, I just have everything as an hour. If I needed some sessions to show up for 2 and some to show up for 1.5 in this generic resources schedule, then I'd need to in PowerChart have appointment requested here, group 60, group 90, group 120. So as a requesting provider, I would need to know which groups represent which duration. And so it's not going to be as easy as just typing up the group here, or sorry, the session name, and the system going and finding it for me electronically. I need to know the durations of each session when I'm placing. That's why it's nice to have everything under the one duration, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I mean, the vast majority, I think, will be an hour. Like we're just kind of trial running one right now that has a little more information. That would be 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever going to be a time that's 2 hours. So a part of me is like, if we did have a 60 and a 90, and then our entire internally, like all of us would be aware that the 90 is for a specific surgery type. Like I think all of our phalloplasty surgeries, for example, will be 90-minute group sessions because it's just so much more complicated. But 60 is the standard for like our vaginoplasties and other surgery ones. So would that make sense if we had like a drop down group 60, group 90, and then internally we all kind of are aware of what the difference is between the two?
That's doable. Yeah, that's doable for sure. What we want to avoid is creating different group sessions in the drop down for each of your groups. That's something we could do as well, potentially, but it's a lot more maintenance. It's nice to keep them simple under the duration name, if possible. And that way, the sessions themselves get controlled by the descriptions. I'll show you that really quick. So this session is generic GSC group therapy. And so the description that I typed in, you can control that here in the appointment book by just typing in your session name. It's nice to keep things general and then do it that way.
I like that too. Yeah, so we don't have to have like, because we're going to develop new things and change and add and whatever. So that sounds good to me.
So yeah, I could create a 60 and a 90. What you would see here is GSC group therapy 60, and then you'd use that most often. And then you could request the 90s as well, where you would label them, accordingly.
Yeah, that's perfect to me. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah.
I have another question, related but unrelated to this specifically.
Sure.
And oh yeah, sorry.
60-90 with 6 sets for optional booking. Okay, sorry.
So what's the 6 set for optional booking?
Where that's the checkbox of being able to tie it to both you, Melanie, Amy.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. So this ordering business is one way to indicate that a patient needs to be booked for a group, which is great through PowerChart, it seems. So far, what I've been doing is like taking our Excel general list of all of our patients at different stages. Like we have one kind of master Excel list, and then filtering and then BCCing mass invites to patients. With Cerner, would that process, like, am I able to curate a list of patient emails to send out a mass email invite, or would there be alternative ways of curating lists, I suppose?
So with Cerner, you get automated appointment reminders. And so I'm just thinking about the design of this automated appointment reminders with group appointments. They're going to get messages based on their selection, but groups don't have, I'll have to follow up how groups work in terms of automated appointment reminders. We do have it, but a mass email that hits everybody doesn't sound like something we would be generating here in Cerner. I think that would need to be managed externally, because each patient, when we're booking appointments, chooses a different way of correspondence. So some may say they want an automated appointment reminder call, some say email, etc. So we label it that way, and they go out very custom for each patient.
Okay, and actually, I think we've been relying on Zoom so far to do the reminders and that sort of thing. Like it has it built in as well. Right. But just that initial invite to solicit registration. is the question mark for me. Is like right now I can just use the Excel list that we have and filter it accordingly and then mass email. But am I able to curate like patient lists based on where they are in the process through Cerner, or would I need to keep kind of a running Excel as well?
Nothing jumps out to me, Florinda, anything from Reg that would be able to kind of filter that based on a booking. I know that you could get to that data via registration, but I don't know about like the system going and saying, all right, get me everybody that's booked to this group session on, next Friday.
Or like get me everyone who's had an accepted referral but has not seen a provider yet, and like give me their emails.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm noting it down here. And nothing jumps out, but I'm gonna follow up on that for you.
Yeah, I can look in the system and see if I can figure it out as well.
That's awesome. Thank you. Because otherwise, then it seems like the only way would be to
manage it
is
external.
through this Cerner individual kind of orders, or do it externally.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. Michael, can you send me this action item as well?
Yeah.
Thank you. Happy to also put it into writing too, if it's helpful.
It would be helpful just to detail it out. And then we can,
Sure.
like my notes aren't going to be as clinically minded as yours.
Oh yeah, it's more just a weird process that we've started doing that I've used in other clinics without Cerner as well. So who would I want to send that to? To yourself, Michael, I'm sure. And it sounds like Florinda.
And I'll get it over to Florinda. Yeah.
Oh, you will. Okay.
I'm sorry,
Thank
I
you.
just missed that. What was the action item again? Because I'm trying to make even my notes on the side. I'm sorry, I just missed that last one.
The question that I have, I guess, is right now for like registering, like inviting patients to register for groups. I've been like curating a list.
Yeah, the Excel one. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Just by filtering through the Excel and then just like sending out a mass email that's like, here, if you want to do this, like click on the Zoom link, register through the Zoom link, and then once they've registered, Zoom will send the reminders, send all the information that they need to join it. I just wasn't sure if like that list curation piece could happen. Like, am I able to have the flexibility to pull mass patient data to send out emails, or within Cerner even send a mass invite email?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Jumping back to the book, if everyone's okay, please continue to ask questions. I just want to show really quick how patients can get booked directly here from the appointment book to one of these groups, and then how a group session set up. So VGH, gender surge, appointment type, GSP group, GSC. Sorry. MPI is hanging up here. I don't know what's going on there. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to pull the patient from the request list and click next and get a group going. So next, if I type GSC. So I have a patient ready to go into group sessions. So group session are currently this is going to show me the sessions that are out there. Not sure why it's not. Oh, it's because it was this morning. It's showing me sessions available. The one that I had for 8 a.m. isn't showing because it wasn't recurred, and so it's not showing me as an option to book to it. I have this vulva meta surgical journey webinar. Say okay, move it, and that patient's now ready to be booked down into the session. So how it appears, patient is now one of the 10 max capacity. You mentioned a max capacity of I think it was a couple hundred, Colin. So that's that can be controlled here in the appointment book. You don't want to ever limit it to where you run out of room. So you want to consider those maxes before these group sessions get set up. The nice thing is it's all managed within one slot, so you're not getting those, several hundred slots. The only thing that does get a little wonky, and I don't have it quite set up to show you, but here in Power Chart, if you had a max capacity, let's see, gender surgery calendar. If I was looking at it in calendar view in Power Chart, it does actually drop those 500 slots. I don't know what 500 would look like, but I mean, even 20 or 50 starts to look a little strange. So just something to consider. I can pull up, this is Healthy Heart. So you can see the group session. So their special program, this had a max of 10 through 12, whatever that is.
Oh, geez. And we just
but
understand.
You're not necessarily needing to come to this calendar view for your group sessions. You would more be looking at day view, and day view is a list anyway. So it's not a huge, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to mention it, that it does get wonky in that view. So
I will say I sent out an email yesterday to about 300 patients, all of whom were eligible to register for, I was inviting them to register for a group.
Yeah.
But I mean, it might look a little, depending how many we get, it might look a little stressed.
Colin, so all of those patients are already on the wait list, the 300 patients that you sent the email to? Got it.
Yep.
Just thinking it through, I don't know if this makes any sense, but throwing it out there, do you think keeping the group patients out of the system would be simpler for you than complicating it further, just as a external thought process? You can even give that.
I mean, in my mind, I know for tracking, certainly that's a possibility. I know for tracking purposes, for them to know that we're doing things and know what patients are going to and whatever, it would just have to be in there at some point. I don't know if we can retroactively upload the 70 attendees for that one session and then have it populate all at once in Cerner or something, just so when you open that individual patient file, it shows that they've attended that.
Yeah,
for posterity reasons. But
personally, from my side, it'll be very interesting to see how the whole list is going to be pulled in, because I haven't seen it, at least with my little experience with Cerner. I've not seen somebody pull a whole list of hundreds of patients at the same time. But I'm sure there's a way, we just don't know how to do it, I'm sure.
Yeah, they would all be in this list view right here, and you would filter to just the group session for that day, and you'd see every patient booked to that session, and it would show their time. So they could all be actioned here. You could hit each patient's chart. Not that that's something you're going to be doing with each of those patients, but you'd at least have a view of every patient right here in one place.
And so I mean, eventually, I think at some point when we do these smaller groups, especially, that'll probably be 25 or less patients, we will have to chart on them. So I suppose that this is the way to start to pull up.
This is where,
that's awesome. And can you retroactively upload bulk patient attendance for groups that you're aware of?
They can be retroactively, but they get checked in basically, and that can happen after the fact.
Even if they're not registered in advance of it. To Raj's point.
They would already have a pre-outpatient encounter. at the time of booking. The system's going to make you do that. So at check-in, the full reg would need to happen for each of the patients.
So like saying if 50 out of your 300 patients were not in the system, you would have to manually go into PM office and register each patient in, which is going to take up so much of your time.
But if these patients, most of them already have a referral package, they're going to already be registered. Those patients would already be registered in the system.
Oh, and sorry, to clarify, all of the patients doing the groups will have been registered.
Okay, perfect.
Will have been. It's just a matter of getting them into that group, registered for the group specifically. Like, if we're able to just like, you know, if we had a group last week that had 40 patients or whatever, like, can we just retroactively be like, yeah, this group happened and these are the patients that went, and just upload them all in one go.
I guess what Colin is saying is basically sometimes the groups are gonna happen and they wouldn't be booked. So he's saying that maybe we can, retroactively put that in the system, right, Colin?
Not
Yeah, it's like
yet.
book and check in all at the same time, 4 days after the session.
Can be done. Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. You may get a warning message for booking in the past in the scheduling book, but there's clinics that do that as well. So
okay, that's helpful.
And those that you mentioned in bulk, I do think, let me have a quick peek here at gender surgery. Just thinking about check-in multiple at a time. So confirmed appointments, that's request. I look at the inquiry location, and I wanted to check in a bunch of appointments at the same time. An all person. So your group would allow you to select the patients. That was a group warning message. When you go to check in your groups, it allows you to check which patients. Let me get you to a group where there's a bunch of patients and show you that, if you don't mind me going back to cardiac rehab. Raj, when was that Healthy Heart session? Was that last Friday?
Yep.
Okay. Only one there. 0 there. Where did we have it? May 2nd. Yeah, so 3 patients scheduled here. Right click, action, check in. And so you get a message. This doesn't help you with your booking, being able to kind of mass book your patients in, because that's pretty manual anyway. But with check-in, you get this message. So you would just cross-reference your list and just say, this person that, who arrived for that appointment.
Oh, that's easy. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. And so that'll just confirm, who actually showed up.
Exactly. Yeah. That tags that tags the check-in, which basically says they were there for the appointment.
Okay. And then that would that checked in appointment list for the viewer that you were just showing me, that kind of showed all of the attendees. You could open their chart from there. Would that list only include the checked in patients?
You have in scheduling, you can look and see checked in via appointment status here. It changes. You're going to see in this particular inquiry, you would see confirmed, checked in, no show, whatever. In Power Chart, if you were looking in Power Chart, you're also going to see the status. So, say you wanted to look at the list from this view, you'd see those that are still in confirmed and then those that are checked in.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay.
Yeah. Really quick group session setup, how those are managed in the book. I know we spent quite a bit of time here on group, but let's jump back to gender surgery. Raj, how are we on overall time?
We are good. We have another full 1 hour, but cardiac
Okay.
rehab is starting up at 12 in 30 minutes.
Yeah, I was just checking to make sure we didn't just have 10 minutes or so, but so
No,
group
we have
session
1 more hour,
setup.
so we're good.
Okay. That was what I was showing you where in cardiac rehab, where they have the option of pulling in a provider. Your session doesn't have that yet, so please bear with me on that, but right click. So this is managing group sessions in the book. Create. Your session is under GSC. This is where we label it accordingly. What I was showing you for the different sessions. You could also develop a plan where you put the word Zoom in front of those that are Zoom, and maybe some are in person, however they're done webinar. Max capacity. Keep in mind, you don't ever want to limit your session. So, say if you have a feeling it's going to be over 200 and it could be up towards 250, there's no reason not to just put 300 or however you want to do that. Open and shared. Open and shared really more works around recurring groups. So I don't want to get too hung up on this, but it allows you to say, I want my session to be kind of an open session where patients don't need to have been there for the very first one on April 1st. They can come and go. They could be there for 6 weeks starting in May and end, late summer. It's an open pattern. If it wasn't checked, and I don't know which one of these does what, but if it wasn't checked, it wouldn't allow for that flexibility. So yours books to a generic resource. You tell the system what time you want it to be set up. I'll say 1500 here. And then recur is used in many clinics where we set up sessions for an entire 6 months or a year, however far out you want to roll them out, where you're comfortable with this being on a solid recurring pattern. You wouldn't want to set it up for a year if you only knew that it was going to be a session for the next 3 weeks. But here's where recur happens. And this is a nice functionality, so you don't have to manually do this. It's a recurring session.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so group session, and then it just goes and looks and makes sure. Here's the one caveat to booking to the actual providers. If I had the providers checked here, Colin was an option. I checked him and I said, all right, system, go check Colin's schedule too. If Colin already had something booked, I'm going to get a conflict there saying there's something booked, and I would have to override any of those. I mean, just, kind of obvious system check saying, hey, we're creating a session, but your provider's not really available. So check in this case.
You can override that. You can override that if push comes to shove, and they'll be double booked in that time. Okay.
Exactly. Yep, that's exactly it. So
this isn't integrated with Outlook, is it? Like Cerner scheduling on the whole?
No.
Okay.
You want to create a session, and we now have a session, and then these sessions can be maintained here as well. So if something needs to be canceled, rescheduled, all of that's done here with group. And it also, if I was to recur this, I would get another, and I wanted to modify. It does pop up a window that says, hey, are you just trying to modify one day, or you want to modify the whole 6 months? So pretty good flexibility with changing those sessions. The one strange thing is that whole duration thing we talked about, but I think we should be able to get by with a 60 and a 90 and go from there. If you need more down the road, we can make more.
I think that's, pretty reasonable. Should work for.
All right. Great. And so do you know if we'll have groups to get booked in before go live in July? Do you imagine us cutting over patients before then to go live with group at the time of go live?
Okay, sorry, I don't know if I understand the question. We're doing groups now. Like I have one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. It sounded like some may be going and some. Okay, so you're ready to go and start getting these sessions set up.
I mean, we have right now five different groups that we've run and or are imminently happening. And then we
Yep.
have no shortage of ideas for additional more niche types of groups and that sort of thing. But it's just so early on that we like have a roadmap, but we haven't actually developed or decided on anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the sessions, are they set up through the summer, or how far out are you set up for sessions?
Oh, just May.
Just May, got it.
Yeah. And then, I mean, we'll probably do another round in July at the earliest after May.
Okay. And so what needs to happen before we go live at the end of July is we have to get the sessions, actually before that, if we're going to cut patients over into the sessions, I need to know the actual days, times, et cetera, for every one of the sessions, because I'll set these up for you before we start getting patients booked to them. And then maintaining the future sessions will be done clerically within your clinic.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay, thanks. And that what is we have a go live date? What's the date for that?
The July 27th, I believe.
July
Right around
27th.
there. Yeah.
Okay, so really any group sessions before July 27th we'll do with our old processes that we're doing here. And
Yeah.
then any groups that we're scheduling afterwards, we'll try and give you a good chunk of time to schedule them in August, etc.
Yeah.
Is that
great.
kind of what you're saying there?
Yeah. So if they're going to be booked in Cerner, I need to know those sessions before we start booking patients to them. And so that goes with the timing of, when do you actually start booking patients for what sessions, keeping in mind that go live date. It's just the whole balance. Like if we're going to get patients cut over for August, I need to get these sessions set up for August before cutover happens. But, you may not actually book for August until, July. So that wouldn't happen with our like traditional cutover. We would be doing that a few weeks later than the normal cutover. Anyway, it's all timing.
Okay. Maybe I understand 70% of what you're saying. So maybe
I was just gonna say, I'm sure he's so fast.
I don't entirely know what cutover means, but I mean, yeah, happy to.
So I was just going to say, cutover is when you will be putting in the old system and the new system at the same time.
Oh,
and it's
okay.
going to be a little bit of duplication, so keep that in mind, because it will be preparing the new system, but it'll be 3 weeks or 2 weeks prior the new system goes live for you.
Got it.
How will you cut your old patients, your old lists, your old whatever into the new system? There is going to be a 2 week, 3 week window of that as well.
And that'll be before that July 27th date or whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so cutover period is like July for the most part.
Yeah,
pretty much, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, our summer's pretty it's pretty slow. And I think we could probably take a hiatus from groups for like July and probably into August as well, just to give us some time.
We see that with activation.
Sorry, Michael, also one more small thing that they did last year during VGH in specific, when they told the whole hospital to literally start slowing down things in the anticipation of clinics going live. So you will see those mails coming out to you, which will tell you to not have all your heavy schedules out there as much as possible for the first month, at least, till nursing staff, you and clerical staff are all okay using the system. That's when you can start completely overloading the system after. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, that sounds good. And like looking at our surgical dates and stuff for the summer as well, they're pretty few and far between. So hopefully we'll have that nice grace period to figure this out. And then the groups and stuff, just for like historical context, up until 4 months ago, we'd never run a group ever, and the clinic had run. It's just a point of improvement. So if we can put a pause on them, there's not really any expectation from anyone that they continue onwards with any sort of consistency. It's more just our team wanting to improve things. So anyways, we can have a big gap in there too if need be.
And I'll have a note, because I have it for cardiac rehab as well, can you hear me okay? All right, so I'll have a note to follow up with you as we get closer to go live to say, hey, our group sessions for August, do you want me to set any up? So we'll that's something that's going to stay on my radar up until we get live, and whoever's going to be setting up these sessions will also get training on how to set them up for those following months, August, September, October.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Keep me on track.
definitely will. All right, I think Colin, I know you're busy. Please feel free to drop. I just wanted to introduce the sessions to you. We'll get
Yeah,
a
and
60 and a 90 there.
This looks awesome. Yeah, I think it'll, yeah, I think the setup here is going to be just so much easier for coordinating all of these moving forward. We've been jumping through Excel and Zoom, or not Excel, rather Outlook and Zoom and a couple of other, yeah, as we iron out our own processes right now, but this seems incredibly straightforward. So thanks for the back end work with that. And I think it'll pay dividends certainly when we go live. So anyways, I'll drop off now, but yeah, thanks so much. I'll send you an email just kind of overviewing the questions I was asking there. I think you answered one of them, but I'll send it anyways. And yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye now. All right. Slide here for automated appointment reminders. We tweaked this the last time a bit. We changed the reminder to say GSP BC. This is with every in-person appointment. So the whole yellow section is going to be attached to any appointments that were answered as in-person appointments. But the cancellation message is going to appear with every appointment type. Just wanted you to get your eyes on this one last time before I know if we tried to tweak it, we would get some grief from Barb, Raj, but I'm willing to go there if we need to.
So the COVID message, I think we can get rid of that because I think we are not required to have that COVID message anymore. That's what I was told by Pinky. So we can still have saying if you have COVID symptoms, then don't come for the appointment and let us know. But like regarding the masks and everything, I think the hospital has already sent out an email saying that we don't need the masks are not mandatory now.
Yeah, they've dropped those mandates for the whole province now. Yeah.
This stuff is hard coded for every clinic at VGH. So whatever is happening as a whole from our COVID messaging structure will take effect into these preps.
Got it.
That's all standard from before.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about was the cancellations. Usually, yeah, that is pretty much the standard 48-hour notice is good. But sometimes we do book the no-shows like before those 3 months too. So I mean, like there's no consistency on how far, how much we make them wait. But I don't think that's a big issue though.
You don't think that this should go out in the message?
I mean, it should go out, but I started working in November in gender surgery, and according to the emails that that we've been sending, it does say 3 to 6 months. But we haven't been consistent in kind of making them wait 3 months after the no-show, because sometimes the doctors will give us like a bunch of days to book for Zooms, and when we're running low, we do have to call the ones who we called earlier. Yeah. So, but I don't think it's a big issue. 3 to 6 months is because a 3 to 6 month delay is for the Zoom calls. So basically, the ones who missed the initial Zoom call. For the in-person, we do the rescheduling. Like if they no-show, we'll basically, because they would need a post-op follow-up. Let's say if a patient is missing a post-op appointment, they no-show for that appointment. It would be kind of our responsibility to kind of call them back within the like a certain period, but and not make them wait like 3 months.
Should we change the wording a bit to say no shows have a typical 3 or something along those lines so it's not so scary sounding?
Yeah, because sometimes the patients will get scared,
they'll
just call.
Remove out that whole section. Maybe if it's not required, the whole no-show statement when it starts from there. I'm not sure if it's even required then.
I mean,
Your call completely, yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever you want it to
that's
say.
your call.
We do kind of need it, like we do need it because then they won't take it seriously, but then we don't want to scare them off too. Like, we're saying, we can say that, no show will have a mandatory delay and not mention like 3 to 6. But yeah, this is kind of confusing for me as well. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can get a hold of Amy and
Send me an email with
yeah,
whatever you
I will
wanted to
send you an
say.
email. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe say a few weeks delay.
But sometimes the doctors, they will email us saying to make the patients wait for 3 months, actually 3 months, because they might have missed multiple calls.
Mike actually liked his version when he said no show will have a mandatory delay and remove off the other words. It just puts a threat out without putting in threatening them the number of months.
That's nice and vague, but yeah. Have a mandatory delay to rebooking. But Gerb, I'll wait before I tweak any of the build. Just drop me a quick line whenever you get that solidified. Or if you say now, if you want it to be this, I can easily tweak it. Outstanding questions. We have our questions that we're going to type up based on listening to this call. Also, those few from Colin. Gerb, you mentioned that you had some other questions. Let's try to get those answered now, but if not, I want to put everything here too.
So the first one is like, when we do the clinic prep for the doctors, we do send a slate out to their private secretaries. So I'm not sure what they do with that slate. Maybe they enter it into their system. Or maybe, when the doctors, sometimes the doctors work from home for telehealth clinics. In that case, the private secretaries will send them the patient's information, like the MRNs, so that the doctors can transcribe. So I'm not sure how that's gonna carry over to CST. Like, are we gonna be still sending them the slate, like, or are they gonna have
slate? Is that just for the appointments that are being booked in clinic? You're not talking about the actual surgeries, right?
No, like just the appointments. Let's say if right now what we're doing is like 7 days before, we will send a slate, basically like a list of patients who have been booked for like 7 days from now, and then they will enter that into their system. And then there's one that we sent like 14 days before, and then there's another that we sent 7 days before, and then there's one that we sent like 1 day before, like a finalized slate that, hey, these are the additions or these are the removals from the day. And they do whatever they need to do. And also we send them the intakes and referrals so that they can upload into their system. So I'm not sure how we are gonna tackle that. Are we gonna be still,
or I think everything's now retroactive in that anybody working from home would be using Cerner. And so this is a provider view. They're seeing everything real time here in PowerChart in their ambulatory organizer.
Got it. So we won't need to send any like slates and intakes or referrals to the private secretaries.
I don't believe so. So is the private secretary's current role, are you saying they get it updated for the provider to see the schedule change? Is that all that they would do? Is that layer? Because the provider has access to their schedule now.
They do have the access to their schedules, but let's say if I'm booking a patient, if I'm booked a patient John Doe for a telehealth, like a Zoom call, for the provider, they would need the MRN, so that because their system only accepts like a certain MRN, like just the MRNs are not the PHNs, and then they would enter that into their system at home, and then they would transcribe for that patient. And there's like, other stuff that they would, but I'm not totally sure because I don't know what else they do with it, like, with the slates. They might enter it into their system to keep a record that the doctor saw these patients in gender surgery. But that's like,
I'm just wondering if the system, I can't speak clinically and we lost Nicole, but I'm thinking the system that you're envisioning is now Cerner. So any of that charting and stuff that needs to happen on the patient is here, and they don't need to take appointment details and go out to an external system, do they?
so are you saying that they would have Cerner, like everybody would have Cerner, like even if they're working from home and the private secretaries? Okay.
They would have access to their Cerner at home, yeah, for sure.
Got it. And what about the private clinics? Would they have the Cerner? Like, what if they don't have Cerner? Then
Private clinics are the private clinics. So explain the private clinic. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to picture if they would have access to Cerner.
So Dr. Kavanagh and Dr. Genevieve, they work in GSP, like gender surgery clinic.
Mm-hmm.
But the private secretaries, like Dr. Genevieve has a private practice too. So, and Dr. Kavanagh, he has a urology office on the 6th floor. So they have like a separate clinics, but they do take the information from us, like, regarding patients. And there are times when they would send the patients who were seen in their private clinic for a follow-up in the gender surgery clinic.
Yeah.
It's a bit tricky, but hopefully we can, work towards making, certain protocols when it comes to those types of patients. But yeah, that's why it was kind of confusing because like we've had this conversation with the management team as well, because there are some upper surgery patients who were seen in Dr. Genevieve's private office, but then they are getting referred here for a follow-up, which is kind of a bit confusing for everybody because then we would need to do everything for them. And which is not consistent. And that's why. And
so yeah, that is a little bit sorry, outside of my realm. I haven't seen that. If it's private, you're not going to have those private patients in the Cerner appointment book, obviously, and so they're not going to see them here in ambulatory organizer. Will that provider be able to see their gender surgery clinic stuff if they're working somewhere else? Yes, they have access to their power chart, but unless that clinic is up live on the Cerner system, there is no communication between the two.
Then we would have to go to PM office and add them to the system and attach their referral. Yeah.
Right.
But for the intakes and referrals, I don't think we would need to send the intakes and referrals, considering that the provider should have the access to CST, the Cerner. So I think that's good. The next question that I had was regarding Zoom links, and that's already been answered, that we would need to send Zoom links as we are sending now. The next one is communication to the referring providers. So once we accept or decline the referrals, how do we communicate that back to the provider? Do we just send a fax like from the computer, like from the VirQ monitor saying accepted, and then it would go to that provider?
So that's a great question, and I may have to take it away because there are different ways that it happens in different clinics, and some still would be doing a manual fax back to the referring clinic with some sort of a cover sheet saying, this is you have an internal process for your accepted referral or declined, etc. I'll follow up, because I don't know that anybody that's still on this call has an answer for that. There is some fax functionality, but I'm not super in tune to it outside, getting faxes out of Cerner.
We would really appreciate if we could get something inbuilt, like a form, let's say, like some fax functionality where it would have like an accepted fax form or declined fax form, or waiting for documents fax form, saying that, hey, we have received that referral, but we need this form, and then we tick off that form, and then we send it from the computer, and then it might go to their machine and it could come out as paper or to their Cerner if they're a Cerner clinic.
I'll get you all the details on that.
Mhm.
I know that it's not a new subject. This comes up with a lot of our clinics, so I'll get you some solid answer on that.
Mhm. So I think those were all of my questions, and I have another meeting to go to at 12 o'clock. So
Okay.
if there's not anything else, then can we finalize the next dates and the action items for me?
Yeah, next dates. There are no upcoming sessions.
Got it.
The next big thing to keep on our horizon is cutover, and the details around cutover are going to come from our CIS team. So we'll get more details on that from Nicole, and you'll be hearing from CST for sure on that. Cutover includes getting the appointments loaded into the system before we go live. So please, you know, keep that on your radar. It obviously has to happen before we go live. And so you kind of have like a soft go live where you're learning the system and getting your patients booked in before it's officially turned on. We'll type up notes and get it out in an email.
The notes that I have from today, and I will include the recording as well for the whole group. And I'm going to just send 2 Word documents out. Group, you can take a look at it and you can reformat your questions and write them again, because there will be people on the group from the ambulatory team that can maybe answer some questions that we can't. And they're not here right now.
So just to recap, we don't have any scheduling or design sessions. Everything is validated for now. The next process, process is the cutover in this whole thing. So the cutover would be to getting the appointments loaded into Cerner from PCIS. And that is something that we will wait for Nicole.
Yeah,
correct.
There'll be a full plan for it.
Mhm.
There'll be extracts or, you know, actual, there'll be SOP documents on how to get everything cut over, and there'll be a plan and date and time for getting that done.
And just to let you know, in the month of May, there is going to be now massive testing of this whole software. Will actually go through multiple testing rounds in the entire month of May. So the cutover will be in July, possibly last week of June. So they will start prepping for it in June, but you will start seeing the mails come through from Nicole at some point.
Just give me 1 second. Let me make a note here. So the May, we are doing the software testing, and June,
That's
July.
not you.
We will.
Yeah.
Oh, that you guys, yeah. Exactly, yeah. You guys will be doing the software testing, and so we will be good for May. In June, July, we'll be doing the cutover, and there's no scheduling or design sessions. And I would just need like any action items, you know, any information that you need. Could you formulate that into the email, and I can respond back to it?
Yep, I'm going to put it in the Word document. Just look through it in the last page of the Word document. I tend to like summarize questions that you asked or stuff that Mike has to do and so on and so forth. So look at that. And if you still have questions, you can put it in the body of the email for sure.
All right, so I'll wait for Raj's email and respond back to it. And also I'll wait for Nicole's email, probably at the end of June.
There'll be a lot more planning before the end of June. You'll see it soon here. Yeah.
All right, so we are good with the CST for now, right?
Okay.
Got it.
Awesome. Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
well, thank you guys.
We'll put your approval stamp on this, GURP.
Yeah, I think everything looks good for now. Like,
yeah.
Other than that, Dr. Kavanaugh's, you know, slots, and other than that, I think everything looks pretty good. And the group sessions is something that is not like my area, and I don't want to associate to that area because that's adding to my backlog. So
yeah,
we'll let them handle it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. Thank you guys. Thank you for the support.
Appreciate your help through this.
All right, no worries. Bye now.